Peace by Robert the Narrator, the basic edition. Fantastic game. I've talked about this multiple times. I've run one session locally. I am preparing to run a session online for the guys, for Robert himself, Dell, and hopefully a few others who might join us from our group on Facebook, but we'll see. So this is the basic book, and Robert is in the process of preparing the core book, a giant, I think it's going to be, 400 to 600 pages, I'm not certain, with art and NPCs and art and more information, which is unbelievable. And I think he's going to kickstart that, so I'm not certain on all those details, but watch his channel and pay attention to his Facebook group, and he'll probably announce more of that later. But when I bought these directly from Robert, a couple of books. He also provides the basic PDF free. Of course, there's usually a link in our videos or in all of Robert's videos. So anyway, what I want to talk about is how do I get the most out of a basic book, especially when, as I've aged and matured and I've tried games outside of our traditional D&D, I have been less inclined to homebrew or tweak games. I've been less inclined to change the rules. I have a lot more respect regarding developers and design intention of games, that I attempt to the best of my ability to follow the rules and only make rulings when we have a potential dilemma or when I am ignorant of how they should resolve the rules, because it can happen. I mean, you can get to a state in a game and you don't want to interrupt the flow of the game to try to find maybe some obscure reference to something that should fit into the rules, and it's there, but you just don't know it, and you end up making a ruling, and you keep moving. But how do I get the most out of a game like a basic edition? Well, first of all, I have plenty of reference. He does a brilliant job of defining everything we need to know to play this game indefinitely, in my opinion, outside of levels beyond 3. I mean, remember, this only goes to level 3 for our heroes. But that's okay. I prefer low-level gaming anyway. I don't mind high fantasy, but I prefer low-level if I'm going to do high fantasy. But again, that's just preference. That has nothing to do with the book or the quality of the material. But he defines all the major pieces of the world. I've talked about this before. He gives us everything we need to actually play this game infinitely, despite whether characters cap at 3 or not. But more importantly, when I look and people say, well, gosh, it's a pretty small bestiary. Well, again, we have everything we need to understand how the game's math functions, to understand how the game's difficulties are built in, how the challenges should be acquired. So when I sit down, for instance, for my upcoming game, and I'm preparing a thing, this will be less naive narrator and more traditional gaming for me when I run a game like Peace. I might use a little bit of random tables for some stuff that could interrupt their travel or interrupt their processes of what they're pursuing as a random seed, and then who knows where the session goes. But I will prepare this in a more traditional style, which is my history, right? However, again, not railroad so much as theme, I guess is the best way to put it. So anyway, we know roughly how these work. We have plenty of options to look at how these creatures are and how these creatures. But I might look literally at his rules and say, well, how can I create, whether I create exactly creatures like this, or whether I just want to make my NPCs a simpler reference. All I need are the rules of how the game functions, and I can use those exact same pieces of the rules to create NPCs or creatures that have a particular focused function. So for instance, let's say I want to make some kind of rock creature. It's just a little minion rock creature that aids the elemental, right? Or might be a preamble of an upcoming greater elemental, as they're traveling or traversing through a dungeon and they run into these little creatures that should foreshadow the impending doom of their demise at the hands of an earth elemental. And I want to foreshadow that with a creature that isn't quite the earth elemental. So I might create these little, who knows what, stone creatures or something. Well, I might say all they really can do is they have a defense score of 4, they have an attack point of 5 or something, whatever it is, and I might literally just give them a condition they create upon a successful hit hindered, or they create upon obsession prone, etc. And so all I'm concerned about is them putting a condition upon characters, maybe not fighting them traditionally, right? So I know I don't have to invent. Well, what does that look like? I come in here and say I'm going to put I'm going to write in their little index card, hindered is the result of a successful attack. Restrained is the thing, right? So it's almost like creating a condition that is a NPC or creature, right? Or whether I want to disarm, right? This as a result of its attack, you are prone, and there is a opposed disarmed check always, every time, that kind of thing. Grab, it grabs, it flicks, right? So I don't know, and I am the kind of person who says, well, I know I won't. By doing that, I'm not going to cheat the game. I'm not going to cheat the players. I'm going to simplify what is necessary for me to utilize that device, right? If that makes sense. And I think when we have every rule and we have all of this good information, you are able to do that. You can extrapolate and add or create without breaking, if that makes sense. Or for instance, I want to come in here. The reason I'm moving through the book here is I'm trying to get to, let's say for instance, I want to create an NPC. I am not concerned about creating a whole character, but I want this NPC, regardless of his level, regardless of what he is, to just have Ray of Force with the add-on increased SCM +6. I will just take Ray of Force and apply it to this character, and that is the chief motivator, the chief power, or the chief thing of that NPC character. Not concerned whether he meets the prerequisites or she meets the prerequisites. Not concerned whether she's level 1 or level 4, whatever. I want to just create the thing that gives me the theme of what it is I want them to face, or the challenge that this thing would put upon them if they fought it or challenged it or ended up in a conflict with it. So I can do this with mini games, but how do I know that a game is complete? How do I know that everything we need to not tweak the game, but to add to the game, or to what I would call shorthand a game? This has it. Although it's the basic core book, it has it, and you can do it. And again, I am preparing a more traditional session for the guys. It's a one-off, and I am doing these exact things. I'm creating my own NPCs. I'm creating my own potential creatures that, in a way, could be foreshadowing of upcoming potentialities of an actual battle with an actual creature that would be actually in the book, that kind of thing. But these are ways, tools that I use and can use with a game like Peace, because it gives us everything, right? And again, this is not something that's you can't do with other games. Obviously, you can. But for instance, when I ran D&D 5th edition for the guys locally, I did not use the monster. I had the monster manual. I did not use it. I created my own, and I picked the blocks that I needed, because these monster stat blocks have all this information, and to be quite honest with you, I don't need it. I only need to know that it's a fair number mathematically for the level of the that I'm challenging the PCs with. You don't want to take a handful of stat blocks and they're skewed, right? So I utilize the stat blocks that only I am concerned about or necessary. When they want to do something that I don't have the stat for, I can instantly roll the stat up or create the stat on the fly, or flip to the book and find a commensurate, find a relevant or frame of reference for the statistic I might need, like the attributes for all creatures and NPCs in this, right? All I need to know is what is the average attribute score for all creatures. And if I know the average attribute score, I can just go through this and do all the calculations, just know the average attribute score for every creature. And if it turns out to be a 5, then I just make sure that all attributes that aren't designed to be their strength are just a 5, right? Very simple. Thank you. Bye.